Imagine you have a brain capacity that allows you to focus on not more than 5 things, and you use that limited brain power to abuse people on the internet, to get angry at what a stranger said because you don't agree with them, to send death threats to someone because you don't like how they live their life. You use your limited brain capacity to give so much power to people you will probably never meet, to control your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, and even your actions. And then you cry that the world is against you, that nothing is fair, and yet even if you're given a fair chance with everyone else, your first thought is to bring someone you don't like down. If you're given a choice between the life you dream of and a chance to oppress someone else, you would choose the latter because you have wired your brain to be addicted to hate, to be addicted to controlling the lives of other people. You've become so much of an enemy to yourself that you cannot stand to see people being human beings. If you've been keeping up with the news lately, especially a lot of international news, then you would definitely be thinking that the whole world has a problem with immigration. There's the riots in the UK. The US is always talking about immigrants, they're coming to take over our jobs. You know, the politicians are always saying these things, and the media is always reinforcing these things. And if you've actually lived abroad, you know this. The things that are being reported in the media, most times they're actually exaggerated. And we actually live at a time where a lot of people don't ask questions when they should. And that is what a lot of these politicians want. They want you to just believe whatever it is that you see on the news. Most times, what a lot of people in the media do is that they create an issue that isn't there in the first place. And once it's reported in the media, then a lot of people will start thinking that, oh, this must actually be happening. When they think like that, they start believing everything they see, and then they start having a lot of fear because they're like, oh my god, the immigrants are coming to take my job, which is completely false. Actually, most times the politicians are in cahoots with the media to make the general public think in a certain way because it's beneficial for them. Remember, it's actually not beneficial for politicians when people are united, when people think of each other as human beings. And in the Western world, obviously they use immigrants because it's like, oh, they're not like us, they're coming to take everything away from us. In Africa, they use tribe. And this kind of constant messaging is what actually creates discord, because you're fed a lot of lies until they actually become truth. And because a lot of people are not actually taught to question things. In fact, if you're someone who is always questioning things, you will be labeled as the one that is causing trouble, because all the systems that we go through, whether it's the family unit, whether it's the school system, whether it's religion, we're always taught to just follow what we're being told by leaders, to just obey, never ask questions. And this works very well in just dividing people, using fear to divide you. This means you're just going to be preoccupied with this fear that you feel and to try and protect yourself. This person that has been painted to be the enemy when they're not, when you're actually in the same boat as them. Someone who has actually studied media, I went to school to become a journalist. And when I started working in the TV industry, I was like, no, this is not what I want to do, because it's not as impartial as you would like to think. Everyone has an agenda. And in fact, you should be asking yourself, why is it that a lot of politicians want to own media houses? Have you ever thought about why celebrity gossip exists? Because it also plays a very important role in the media ecosystem. If you pay close attention, most of the times where a celebrity gossip is unearthed, something is going on behind the scenes, especially politically, and it's something that they don't want you, the general public, to know about. And that's why they're using your favorite celebrities to distract your attention. And this works very well because a lot of people react, especially on social media. And this is one of the things I'm talking about in my marketing podcast, Monetize Attention, why you're easily manipulated on social media. The fact that a lot of people are quick to react instead of listening, instead of wanting to comprehend what they are watching. That is the perfect breeding ground for manipulation. You can be fed anything and you're just going to be eating it because you're not even asking yourself, why am I eating this? What is this that I'm eating? I used to think that it goes without saying that everything you see on social media is curated to make you think a certain way, to evoke an emotion in you, to influence you in one way or another. All forms of media have always done that since the start of time, because the role of the media is to inform, educate, entertain. However, as I started creating on various social media platforms, it became very clear to me that many people do not have an ounce of media literacy. I could understand teenagers because they still have lacking brain capacity, but full-grown adults? It still astounds me that a lot of adults don't care to interrogate what they read, watch, or listen to on social media. The first thing they do is react to the one word they heard that they didn't like. You would think that they are competing in hate Olympics. Who's going to be the first one to leave the meanest comment that will garner thousands of likes without regard for the humanity of the creator, whose content they're using to run away from the real world that they hate because nothing is working out for them. I often hear a lot of other creators making excuses for these kinds of people with the phrase, hurt people hurt others. But I know this is absolutely false because I have gone through hurtful moments in my life like any human being, and my first reaction wasn't to be mean and hurtful to others. So clearly, these individuals, mostly labeled as keyboard warriors, are doing this on purpose. And it is important to note that some of them are actually paid to create negativity around certain personalities. Most of these people, who are more like a virus, will blame TikTok for frying their attention spans when confronted with their incessant reaction over listening and comprehension, when in reality, they are a bunch of intolerant creatures with one-dimensional brains that think that everyone should live in their bubbles. They want you to think like them, eat like them, procreate like them. They don't believe that human beings have agency over their own lives. Rather, they want to dictate how everyone should live. If you don't believe in the same things as them, they label you as lost, as a horrible person, as a bad role model, and hence deserving of whatever horrible things that happen to human beings. They send death threats as if they are immune to death itself. They pray for your downfall as if they are immune to the ups and downs of life. I don't know where these kinds of human beings are made, because even if you gave them 1,000,001 resources to help them to be media literate, they'll admonish you for trying to change them. They are obsessed with blaming the world and everything in it for their predicament, but will not do anything to better their lives. And social media platforms have greatly contributed to creating more of these creatures because it rewards videos that are full of rage and hate. The latest psychosis has been the collective push for influencers to be experts on politics, to be activists, while also undermining the careers of influencers. This new-founded mandatory supposition, while it may look forward, is one of the useless strategies that individuals employ in order to feel like they're doing something meaningful to change the status quo. It's baffling how many are now expecting influencers to be activists and journalists, while those who have dedicated their lives to these professions are sidelined. Influencers are also experts in their specific fields, but you just don't respect them as professionals. You don't tell doctors to be lawyers, lawyers to be engineers. But because you undermine the work of influencers, you think they are at your beck and call. You argue that awareness is needed, but even so, you're not interested in taking proper action because you don't even understand how the system works. Influencers have a duty to use their platforms for good, you say. You've forgotten to reiterate something here. You think influencers should use their platforms for something you consider good. You want them to speak about politics in the way that you approve. If they decide that their form of political activism is best done outside of social media, you don't want to hear it. You want it on the feeds, on the stories. You want the sound bites that you can pass around as you feel that the only duty you have towards bringing change is bullying influencers into speaking up. Awareness is important. You say that while working for a company that uses children for labor. You happily receive a salary from the company that steals intellectual property from creators. You use that money to have access to Wi-Fi that allows you to bully influencers to take a stand. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. When you're silent, you're joining the oppressor. You post another story. All this energy to bully influencers, but you never have the energy to hold your leaders accountable. You dream of becoming the oppressors that cause majority of political problems, and yet you want influencers to take a stand, shout about all injustices in the world. There are many journalists that put in a lot of effort into reporting factual news. Journalists that have been trained for years and experts in their field. Instead of uplifting their voices, you want an influencer to keep you up to date with current events, while you work on your dream of being a billionaire to wreak political havoc on all peasants and watch them harass influencers on social media. Should have done this earlier. Oh, do you hear my deep voice? This is my favorite voice for when I am doing the voiceovers. That's why a lot of you tell me that you like my voice. But it's actually very difficult to speak at that low decibel. You see, it's making my eyes watery. One of my absolute pet peeves as a creator, especially on the internet, is people who want to dictate what I can or cannot talk about. People are always like, oh my god, stop ranting on the internet. You do realize that I am deliberately making these videos. It's not like I just woke up one day and be like, oh my god, I feel so bad and I should post this on the internet. I see things happening in the world, then I think about these things. I think about how I think about why people are thinking the way they do. That's how I start writing a script. But of course, to a lot of people, they don't see it as a job because they've lost themselves, and this is something we're gonna talk about in a different video. If you're the kind of person who looks at a creator's work and your first thought is, oh, she shouldn't be talking about that online, who does she think she is, you have a huge problem. And I find this more especially when I talk about things that are happening in the first world countries. Oh, there are people like, you're an African, you should stick to Africa, to your country, to your culture. But I wonder why a lot of first world countries are not leaving Africa alone. I mean, we would like that, wouldn't we? And of course, there's something that I see very often. You know, you'll find someone who is considered to be plus size talking about self-love, and people are like, no, you shouldn't be talking about self-love. Your first priority should be losing weight. As if as if someone is supposed to be just one thing. You know, a lot of people have put people in different boxes. If you're an African, you've been put in a box and you're supposed to act like an African. If you don't, then they think that they have the right to tell you to go back into your box. If you look a certain way, they think that they have a right to tell you, go into your little box and stop acting out. And I find this to be absolutely ridiculous, because we are at a point in time where a lot of people on social media do not want to see the differences of people, and this is actually a huge problem, and this is a weakness that is often exploited by politicians because they use differences to try and divide people. And this difference that you actually don't want to tolerate is what makes us very different from animals. We can have two or more human beings who grow up in the same exact situations, but they turn out differently. But the perfect example is family. You can have siblings who go through the same exact thing, but they turn out differently. Why? Because we're human beings, and that is our strength. Now more than ever, we need to see a balance in the views that we have about the world. You, as an adult, you should be very proactive in seeking to be introduced into worldviews that are different from yours. You should be able to acknowledge and respect different opinions and different worldviews. This need to want to control other people's lives, something that honestly I don't understand. So what if someone has decided that they want to live a different life or believe in something? It has nothing to do with me. But this idea where you want to even support politicians to pass laws that are forcing people to live like you, are you okay? I find it so fascinating when people just want to misunderstand things when they just committed to missing the point. You know, when I publish these videos, I really don't care whether you agree with me or whether you disagree. Some people in their heads, they think that, oh, this is a debate, I'm starting a debate and I should be debating with you in the comments. No, because my objective when I'm posting these videos is to hopefully make you think about your life, think about the world, and to also know that different realities exist. So if your first reaction is, oh, whatever it is that you're saying is wrong and you know I'm right, prove to me that whatever it is that you're saying is right, what kind of nonsense is this? What is wrong with you? You know, the thing that a lot of people fail to recognize is that the comments that you actually leave under my videos, they have nothing to do with me, because they are a reflection of how you think, how you see the world. The comments that you're leaving are like a confession about yourself, and I just find it so fascinating when I get those comments like, oh, you shouldn't be talking about this, you're influencing people badly, you know, oh, you're an influencer, you should be careful about what you say. It's not my job to take care of your children or to take care of your feelings or to take care of your thought processes. That's your job. You have agency, and that agency should propel you to ask questions. You should be able to watch a video, read a book, read poetry, and ask yourself, what is it that the creator was trying to convey in this content?